What's good, y'all? Jared here with more thoughts on everyone's favorite Hollywood train wreck. In my previous video about the Depp trial, I said that despite the ruling, it's clear that public opinion is favoring Johnny Depp, which is an assertion that's beyond evident to anyone who spent more than 5 minutes on social media. I mean, my god, every YouTube video, every YouTube poll, every TikTok, every meme, every single news article outside of the mainstream media is all aboard the justice for Johnny train. It is a veritable explosion of very vocal support in a case that pretty much boils down to picking which drug-addled Hollywood narcissist you believe more. Just because Amber Heard may be a Gone Girl tier abuser, that certainly doesn't make Johnny Depp a Boy Scout, so where is this internet-dominating passion for Johnny Depp coming from? Now, I suppose people feel strongly about bringing truths to light that were previously obscured, and that's a good thing. I mean, that feeling when you feel like you're an agent for justice, that surge of righteousness when you feel that you're laying a foundation for other victims to comfortably come forward with their story, it can be quite intoxicating. And so, having said that, I couldn't help but wonder if the Justice for Johnny mania is just another example of the same crowd hysterics that led to his condemnation during the height of Me Too. Are Johnny Depp's hashtag heroes using their voice to spread the truth, and that is shifting the winds of public opinion? Or has public opinion shifted, and like socially savvy sailors, these Depp acolytes are trimming their sails to the new direction of the wind? I mean, what about me? Did I only make a video that was sympathetic towards Depp because I felt comfortable piggybacking off the surge of support he was receiving? Was I just not one of those socially savvy sailors? I guess, to what extent are any of us just reflections of other people's opinions? What is the nature of that wind that lifts people's confidence to paint themselves as Heard sympathizers one day and then Depp stands the next? What exactly is this thing that we call public opinion, and does it make us all NPCs? How can we actually know that we're rooting for the good guy this time, and not just bending to the winds of public opinion? The study of public opinion is an incredibly fascinating corner of philosophy, and for this discussion, I'm going to be drawing on the best book I read last year, The Spiral of Silence by political scientist Elizabeth Noel Newman. This text is the definitive work on public opinion, and it can help us determine just how in the hell Johnny Depp went from being the most celebrated Hollywood actor to a social pariah, and now to being the hero of the internet. Let's go back to 2018. It's been roughly 2 years since Amber's accusations started circulating, and her famous Washington Post op-ed drops, identifying Johnny Depp as an abuser. So, people read the allegations, and when enough people believe them, a public consensus is formed that Johnny Depp is an abuser who ought to be condemned. Boom. That's public opinion, right? Well, not quite. There is another crucial phenomenon that occurs before such a notion can be elevated to public opinion. Newman calls it the spiral of silence, a process she chronicles through an exhaustive collection of social experiments. It goes like this. It's 2018. Imagine that you're at work chilling by the water cooler. You say to a coworker, "Man, did you read that Washington Post op-ed about Johnny Depp? I mean, what do you think? Do you think it's true, or could Amber Heard be lying?" Now, your colleague responds with the familiar, "Of course it's true. Why would anybody lie about that? Women are finally speaking up against injustice. Your doubt is hindering progress," etc. Now, your moral integrity has been questioned by someone in your professional community, and you feel like an absolute turd. Later, you take the bus home, where a familiar bus buddy sits next to you and asks a similar question. He says, "Hey, have you heard about this Johnny Depp stuff?" And not wanting to deal with any more uncomfortable confrontations, you brush away the question, and your doubt about Heard's accusations remain unexpressed. And it's at this point, the point of silence, that the spiral towards public opinion starts. Through a series of social experiments, Newman came to a couple of conclusions about the nature of the spiral of silence. 1. After one feels threatened in an argument, they are less likely to bring up the subject of the argument again or lean into that frowned upon opinion when it comes up in another setting. So in the situation we're talking about, maybe someone thinks, "Man, I feel like a dirtbag for defending Depp, so I want to make sure that doesn't happen again, so I'm just going to keep my mouth shut." 2. When silence replaces the dissenting opinion, it makes said opinion seem weak, and that the opposite opinion is in harmony with the spirit of the age. When people feel that their thoughts are or will inevitably be adopted by everyone, they are far more likely to speak up. With that confidence that they are right, and the increased likelihood to speak up about it, the spiral towards public opinion steepens. So, if nobody casts doubt on Amber Heard's accusations, those who believe Heard will believe that they are socially correct and that everyone agrees. So they will be encouraged and incentivized to continue spreading that opinion. 3. When others are met with the increased confidence of this opinion, people will resort to imitating that opinion to prevent fear of being isolated. And indeed, all instances of public opinion require a threat of isolation. So, if everyone is defending Amber Heard, and let's say I, for example, don't really have a very strong opinion about it, I might as well follow suit and start supporting her too. Otherwise, I could risk my reputation. 4. Eventually, we reach the steepest and ugliest part of the spiral, when crowd hysteria becomes a manifestation of public opinion, when the mass of people holding the same opinion is so vast that people feel completely freed from social control, and the clamor of that crowd approaches madness. Think lynchings, or the storming of the Bastille, etc. And even though Newman was writing in the 80s, even as early as the 1800s, Goethe summed up the spiral of silence when he said, "When someone asserts an opinion and the dissenters don't speak up, that is what defines it as the predominant opinion of the time." And thus, the spiral of silence about Depp's potential innocence breeds the social contagion that leads to his universal condemnation and his eventual cancellation. So why do you, or the man in this example, remain silent? If we just spoke up about our genuine opinions, would everything be gravy? If more people said that believing all women is a willful suspension of nuance that panders to a social position at the potential expense of truth, would we not have to be in this situation? Maybe. But before we get too grandiose, we should pay a visit to American philosopher John Locke, one of the early theorists of public opinion that Newman discusses. For Locke, there are 3 kinds of rules that hold sway over mankind. 1, divine law, or basically whatever your God tells you to do and what not to do. 2, civil law, or what you shouldn't do lest you go to jail. And then 3rd is the law of virtue and vice, or what he more simply dubbed the law of fashion, or the law of public opinion. Locke said that men don't actually care about the first 2 laws nearly as much as they do the 3rd one, for most men would rather be locked up or condemned to hell than be socially ostracized. As he said, men, through fear of isolation, are forced to conformity through the court of public opinion. As a result, he described the process of people choosing what opinions to adopt as indistinguishable from judging what wig to wear. We wear the wig that we think others will like, and we pick the opinions others will think are virtuous. And we condemn Johnny Depp when it's time for women to make progress, and we celebrate him when it's time to recognize our social overcorrections. In the words of Locke, that which we call our opinion does not belong to us, but is a simple reflection of the opinions of others. In other words, our opinions are fashion. And probably the most precise definition of what fashion is comes from the French novelist André Malraux, who labeled it as something that someone can do at first without risking isolation, but that one must do soon after to avoid public isolation. Importantly noted by another early theorist of public opinion, French Renaissance philosopher Montaigne, prevailing opinions are very tied to a particular place and time. So this can be a particular social circle, a particular political party, or an industry, etc. It's the reason why it's easier for someone to speak up against a mask mandate in Texas than in California. Or if you're in a left-leaning industry like Hollywood, you'll be less likely to speak out against certain social positions, but if you worked in certain realms of engineering, doing so would actually get you popularity points. But is this a bad thing? Are the people who start the spiral of silence cowards? Is admitting that your innermost convictions are no more authentic than the brand name on your jacket a sign of character flaw? Is the tyranny of public opinion something we should scorn and actively try to fight? Well, Well, according to some, that may be asking too much. David Hume, for example, said that even men of the greatest judgment and understanding cannot follow their own reason and inclination and go against their friends' opinions. John Locke said that not one person in 10,000 is callous enough not to care if the social environment withholds its approval. American social scientist Edward A. Ross said that it is only a moral hero or criminal who cares not what others think. For most, the praise and blame of their community is the very lord of their life. And then there's the often cited Asch conformity experiments, which suggested that self-reliant individuals are very scarce. Of course, those 1 in 10,000 do exist, and steadfast dedication in the face of isolation can be achieved. Locke, citing Cicero, says that it's exceptional dedication to honor and self-esteem that animates the real man and differentiates him from the herd of humanity. Newman calls these people the hardcore or the avant-garde, those who openly embrace isolation as the price that they must pay for authenticity. Alexis de Tocqueville, who Newman cites as the first person to point out the spiral of silence, was particularly metal in his advocating for a hardcore posture. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, he said, basically, if you value freedom, if freedom is holy to you and you refuse to yield to despotism of any kind, then you should neither yield to the single person telling you what to say or think, nor to the 5 million telling you what to say or think through social consequences of thinking or saying otherwise. So is the unanimous voice of justice for Johnny Depp the cry of the hardcore? I doubt it, and I think you likely doubt it as well. But make no mistake, the hardcore sentiment is essential for society to function. I mean, the law must not be subject to change too easily. It can't fall victim to the excitement of the moment, which is why our judicial process is so slow and deliberate. But I also don't want you to think that the hardcore are like these giga-chads and the followers of public opinion are just these spineless simps. Rousseau also spoke of how loving virtue can also make someone too willing to go against public opinion and may blind themselves from aligning with the truth. Basically, you get the goth kids of public opinion, people who will go against the grain just so they can be hardcore nonconformists, basically posers, if you will. The book talks about a pretty humorous experiment conducted by an Austrian zoologist named Konrad Lorenz. He was studying minnows, and he took one minnow, and that single minnow was lobotomized, and it made it swim in the opposite direction of the other 100 minnows. But only because this minnow swam in the opposite direction with such confidence did eventually the whole school of 100 minnows start following. So ironically, by virtue of being brainless, the minnow became a dictator. And the conformity of public opinion also has some undeniably convenient and useful utility for good. For example, Plato saw pederasty as one of the worst vices. I mean, this was ancient Greece, it was like a thing then. And he suggested using poetry to form public opinion against it. So as tempting as it may be, a simple moral line labeling followers as bad and those who stay true to their individuality as good cannot really be drawn. So what are we to think about Johnny Depp's newfound adoration? Is standing for Depp just what's in season, not unlike sympathizing with Amber was 4 years ago? Were our convictions about his character always and continue to be just empty prejudice that bends to the arbitrary direction of the social wind? I mean, it's certainly possible, and if so, does that mean that I, and maybe you, we're participating in the mania, and we are one of the many ignoble humans who buckle under the weight of public opinion? Well, look, as much as I'd like to paint myself as one of Cicero's paragons of honor and esteem, I also don't want to flatter myself. I mean, even Cicero, in a letter to his friend Atticus, admitted to being swept up by the excitement of public opinion only to later realize that he had adopted the wrong position. Hegel said that public opinion deserves to be respected as much as despised, because within public opinion is also our ability to affirm and uphold our values, our morals, and traditions. Or as Rousseau said, public opinion is both the enemy of the individual and the protector of society. So if nothing else, I hope this video draws your attention to the ever-present law of fashion, for I find it to be one of the most frightening concepts in philosophy. I mean, the laws of men can be changed, the laws of God can be reinterpreted, but fashion's hold over us cannot be tamed or redirected. It's essential to perception, it's essential to community, and we will always be victim to its seemingly arbitrary whim. I mean, I honestly don't know what to think of the notion that one season the color blue can generate social acceptance and then the next season green. I mean, is this just not chronic madness on a mass scale? And it is because of our hopeless submission to the laws of fashion that truth will not always prevail, whether it's about Johnny Depp or any other cultural case. And although Cicero's moral heroes may be rare, I tell you where you can find a whole bunch of them, and it's on my Twitch stream and my Discord server. Yep, I finally got a Discord up and running. The link is in the description. We've got a budding film club going on there. So far, we've covered my favorite Nicolas Cage movie, a crazy Japanese fantasy film called Love and Peace, and today, we're going to be diving into a classic Johnny Depp movie. It's actually a hidden surrealist gem from his early career called Arizona Dream. So be sure to join the Discord, and be sure to follow me on Twitch, where you better believe we're going to be gaming and watching the end of the Johnny Depp trial, because hey man, I'm not immune to want to watch this train wreck. I mean, how can you look away? Also, I finally finished Elden Ring, and it was honestly so rewarding to share that experience playing what many have called one of the greatest games ever made with all of you wonderful nerds and degenerates. I'm also done with another combat game called Sifu, and then after that, I'm starting to think I'm going to mix it up, maybe do something classic. Haven't really decided yet. Anyway, I'm streaming Wednesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, and Sundays at 9 a.m. Pacific time. I've got special guests, so YouTuber and history teacher Mr. Beat is going to be joining me on the stream on June 5th at 9 a.m. Pacific time, so you won't want to miss it. So again, hit that subscribe button, just like Amber Heard abuses Johnny Depp. And as always, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.